Hello, Mech Warriors. Welcome to the Freelancers, a West Marches Battletech campaign rule set that I have created. This is intended to be a flexible rule set that allows you to have each player create their own custom Mech Warrior with a custom mech and advance them by performing missions and using the Downtime system to keep their mech in good shape, or to go for a night on the town and perhaps run into a very interesting encounter. The basic premise here is that you are part of a mercenary guild on Downtime 2 and Downtime 3. You can put this in any planet that you want to, but I'd recommend something in the periphery, and every member of this guild is an individual mech warrior that signs up for missions, whether the planet is being attacked by pirates, getting invaded by the Draconis Combine, etc. And in place of being paid in C-bills, mech warriors are given guild notes. People call them G-bills. And then you can use the G-bills to have mech techs perform repairs for you, or have other services performed, or you can use them to buy new parts and new mechs. Now, a significant portion of your G-bills are going to come from salvage, and we'll get into that in a moment. But first, let's go over character creation. Now, this is a system that I created a long time ago. I already made a video that goes over this, but essentially, when you're creating your character, there's a point system that you can use. Points can be used to buy experience with slight diminishing returns. So the first point that you spend to get experience for your mech warrior gives you 15 XP, and then you get 2 less after that, so 13, 11, and then 10, 10, 10 repeatedly. You could spend all of your points on experience and have a super elite mech warrior that's just piloting like a wasp or something. All characters are going to start with some secondary skills. You get small arms at 8+, and then you get 10 free experience points to purchase another secondary skill like Doctor or Mech Tech, and those can be used during downtime or during roleplay to perform various actions. You can buy SPAs with your XP, you can buy piloting and gunnery increases, you could even buy a bunch of secondary skills and try and have like an economy character, although that's probably going to be less good than just having a good mech warrior to take on missions with. Now, a mech is very important here. You can either choose a mech chassis to build off of, or if you roll randomly on the random assignment table, you get +1 extra points, so that would bring you up to 10 instead of 9. And then your mech size determines how many points you have to spend on the chassis. So 35-ton mech is going to be your baseline, so you can start in like a fire starter for no cost, but then every 10 tons heavier than 35 tons, you're going to have to pay 1 additional point. So one really good mech for this, since we're using quirks, would be like a Vulcan. You don't pay any extra points for it. I think it has narrow low profile, so the Vulcan's really great. But as this goes over here, the maximum points that you can have at character generation is 11 if you get a 20 to 25 ton mech and roll randomly, because having a really small light mech is definitely a pretty big disadvantage. So you get 1 extra point if you go for a really small mech. And then I have no additional cost if you want to just swap weapons around. Like, you could make your Griffin 1N into a Griffin 1S, or a slightly more optimized version of that for no cost. But I have this starting in 3047, so Lost Tech is back, it's available, it's just rare and hard to get a hold of. So any Lost Tech that you have is going to cost you 1 point. So we've got our example build here. Manny the Mech Warrior rolls randomly for a medium mech. He gets a Griffin 1N. He pays 2 points for the 55-ton weight, but gets 1 point back for rolling on the chart, so he's got 8 points to spend. And then we upgrade the PPC to an ER PPC, we add Endo Steel, and we get double heat sinks. That's 3 points cost. So we got 5 points left over for experience. We put 30 total into upping our gunnery and piloting to 4-4, which leaves us with 29 XP. We buy Hopping Jack for 20, leaving us with 9 XP, and we're going to bank that and spend it later on maybe a gunnery upgrade. Maybe we're going to save for another SPA. And then we choose Negotiations as our free secondary skill with the 10 free XP. Instead of buying Hopping Jack, I could have spent 20 XP to buy 2 additional extra skills, or to increase my Negotiations skill, so that I can use that to help my in-game economy. And then this is just a list of special rules that I recommend. I'm not going to go over all of them. And then we get to the game economy. So it's West Marches style, as mentioned. Should probably have at least 4 players in each mission to a max of 8, but if people can't show up, I mean, it's not that big of a deal to lower the difficulty of the mission a little bit if there's only 2 or 3 players available. And if you have like 8, you can just double the amount of enemies. It's going to be a bit of a balancing act. I haven't gotten everything completely perfect or detailed for this yet. This is still very much an alpha, so part of the reason why I'm making this video is to get people interested and to have some of you maybe show up as players and GMs in a Discord server that I'm going to be giving an invite to in the description. And if any of you want to be a moderator for that, as long as you've been around for a while and I've seen you in my streams, then you'll have an opportunity to be a moderator in the Discord. So base mission is going to award 5 G-bills, and then there's extra G-bills based on your ability to complete bonus objectives, and at the end of the mission you get salvage. So each mech is worth 12 G-bills base, plus 1 per 5 tons the mech weighs, and then you subtract the total amount of G-bills that they're worth based on how damaged it is. So -2 per missing limb, -1 per 50% of the weapons destroyed. So if all the weapons are gone, you get -2. -2 per side torso destroyed, -4 if the engine's destroyed, etc. There's a lot of modifiers here. So there's going to be a bit of bookkeeping and a bit of math at the end of the mission, but there's always going to be some math involved at the end of a mission with any kind of Battletech campaign. Moving on to experience. So each deployment will give 1 experience to each mech warrior. Completing mission objectives will grant 1 experience to all involved per objective completed. And then if you defeat enemy units, you get an extra pool of experience that gets divided up between the mech warriors. Each vehicle gives 1 experience, each mech kill gives 2 experience, and then elite enemies will grant an additional experience point in the pool. So this is going to be like heavy mechs, assault vehicles, or elite enemy pilots. So like a 3-4 with some SPAs, or like a 2-3 enemy mech warrior will probably constitute an elite. And then if there's any leftover XP, you divide it up between whoever is elected to be like the MVPs of the match, whether that's because they threw themselves in the line of fire to save someone, or if they were the one that completed all of the objectives. That's going to be up to the players, but if the table can't decide, just award the extra experience randomly, or you could do it on a basis of whoever has taken the most damage to their mech, or whoever was injured the most. Then you can also get experience during downtime by training or dueling enemy mech warriors. That's right, mech warriors, we have a dueling system in place. More on that in a bit. And then experience should probably be awarded if someone is doing something really daring. Like if someone throws themselves in the line of fire to save an ally, like they just walk up to an enemy and say, "Hit me, bro," while one of your other mechs is like limping away and almost completely destroyed, that should probably award an experience point, if not the MVP points as well. And then other stuff that's gonna like impress mech warriors. Like if you do something in a game that would impress mech warriors as a story at the bar, you should absolutely get a bonus experience for it. So pulling off a DFA, charging an enemy off a cliff, caving in an enemy mech's head with a melee attack, all of these should award an experience point in my opinion. But that's gonna be up to the GM's discretion. Now we've got the downtime system. So whenever you complete a mission, you gain 2 segments of downtime. I'm also toying with the idea of giving this downtime to anyone who wasn't able to make it to a match, just as a way that they can sort of maintain a little bit of parity with other mech warriors in the server. Maybe they even get 3 segments of downtime that they can use instead of 2. Regardless, a lot of these are going to require skill checks, which are your secondary skills being used. And honestly, one of the reasons why this document is just over 20 pages is mostly because of the carousing table. So carousing is a little bit complex, but it's simple enough once you wrap your head around it. So you can spend some G-bills to represent going to higher end places instead of going to like shady dive bars, and they will allow you to modify the D20 roll. But otherwise you just roll a D20, and on the lower half of things, mostly gonna be bad stuff. So mugged in a back alley, your mech warrior gets hurt, they lose some G-bills and they lose some experience. That's the worst possible result. As long as you spend 1 G-bill when you're going out, you cannot get this result. So when I was talking about this in stream the other day to one of my followers, they asked if they can gamble, and carousing is basically a gambling check, where you can invest a little bit of money to increase your odds at having a better result. But then we've got like lose a card game, lose 2 to 3 G-bills, barroom brawl. A lot of things can happen from this. You can get your skull caved in, you know, gain 2 injuries, you get out of there and nothing happens. I like this one. You get to save somebody that's in the fight and they owe you a favor. And then barroom brawl can actually be pretty good because you can get experience, and if you get really lucky, you can get the melee specialist SPA. Then we've got like nothing happens. You lose some experience because you just went on an absolute bender. You can get jailed, you can make a new best friend, and then you can lose your best best friend if you have one, or just lose some experience due to demoralization. Lose a couple of G-bills, then Black Market offers one that's kind of exciting. You can get a mech at a reduced cost, or you might get robbed because it was a ploy, or you might get arrested because it was a sting operation. Winning at a bar game gives you some G-bills. High stakes card game, literally you just get to gamble G-bills, or you can choose not to. And then again, jailed for major offense on a 13. Unlucky number, the 13 right there. You can have an NPC mech warrior challenge you to a duel. The bar gets robbed and you can choose to step up and be a hero, or just hit the deck and cower. Midnight Tryst is, you went home with someone. Find out who it is. You might have ended up in the brothel with a few too many drinks in your system, spent a little bit too much money, you've got a debt to the mob now, or maybe you became a widower in a weekend. Married a wealthy octogenarian, but you partied a little too hard and pushed Granny beyond her limits, and she sadly passed away, but you were in the will, so you get some money. And then we've got another gambling opportunity if you want. You can just gain a few G-bills, or you can choose to let it ride and try and get a jackpot and get some more money. Then we've got back alley shooting contest. You can get the sniper SPA if you succeed really hard on a small arms check. And then big score is kind of like the big payout if you win the pachinko machine here. On the really unlikely ends 2 and 12, you can get a free mech. Of course, it's going to be in a little bit of rough shape. You can get some lost tech parts, you can get some money. And then on a roll of 20, you get a better big score, or if it's a natural 20, then you can get some really good stuff down here. Our next downtime activity is duels. Two mech warriors can choose to duel one another and either do it in a training pod, in which case there's not really a lot of risk, but they should be betting some G-bills against each other or something like that. We've got 3 different types just for funsies: serious pod duel and meat space duel. I'll let you read through that. It's a lot of rules to go through. But other mech warriors, if it's a meat space duel, if you are fighting in your mechs in real life, other mech warriors can then bet on it. And they can either bet against each other at whatever odds they decide, or the house will offer certain odds depending on the mechs and pilots involved. Then you can choose to work at a part-time job as another downtime activity, get some G-bills. Depending on how skilled you are, you might get extra G-bills for that. Then there's patching your mech. If you've got tech mech as your secondary skill, you can try and do some mech repairs free of charge. Normally you have to get the mech techs of the guild to repair your stuff, and it costs money. If you have the doctor skill, you can try and patch yourself up and remove some wounds from yourself. Then you can work for Jimmy's Junkyard as a scrounger to get some G-bills or some mech parts. This is actually one of the best ones, but there is risk in it, because if you fail your check by a significant margin, you made a huge mistake and now you have to pay Jimmy back for a part that you broke. Training is going to be one that a lot of people probably want to use. It just allows you to get some experience, but it's diminishing returns, so you can only get the full reward once, and then you get 1 less experience per additional time you train. And if your mech warrior is really injured, you're going to want to go to the doctor. You automatically recover 1 wound that you suffered during a deployment, but if your mech warrior is really hurt, then you're going to want to go to the doctor and get those wounds removed by paying some G-bills. Then we've just got the system for refitting and repairing your mech. So if you don't have mech tech and you want to either A, further customize your mech, or B, get it fixed, you need to go to the guild mech techs and get them to fix it for you. So minor repairs are like attaching a limb, swapping out some weapons, repairing a damaged weapon, repairing all your criticals in a limb, repair an engine critical, etc. And then we've got major refits and repairs, which are like taking out or inserting an engine or a gyro, replacing a destroyed cockpit, swapping from single to double heat sinks or back to single. I don't know why you would necessarily want to do that. Maybe you want to sell your double heat sink kit because you're in desperate need of some money. And then overhaul is how you do a big refit on a mech. Maybe you buy a heavy mech and you want to do a really big refit, install an XL engine, endo steel, all that kind of stuff. This is sort of like the I want to customize my mech thing. It's going to cost 5 G-bills base, whereas if you're doing 2 major refits, it's going to cost 2 G-bills each. So if you're doing lots of big refits, the overhaul is what you want to do. Essentially, they strip all the armor off the mech. They can take out any parts that they want and put them back in. Because I want to encourage people to be playing customs, because the whole point of this campaign is to express your individuality and your creativity in creating a mech and a mech warrior, I wanted a relatively cheap way of just doing whatever you want to a mech. Now, that doesn't mean that it's just 5 G-bills to put everything in, because you have to buy parts, and different parts have different costs. So an XL engine is going to cost you 8 G-bills, which is really expensive. Also, swapping your mech to endo steel is really, really expensive. I kind of want to revamp that a little bit. Again, this is an alpha, so we'll see how it looks. But right now, swapping your mech to endosteel is actually the most expensive thing possible. Then again, you can sell all of the mech limbs and torsos to recoup some of the costs at the same time, so maybe it's not that bad. Then we've got buying mechs. So the base price of a mech is 25 G-bills, add 1 per 5 tons of the mech, and then add in the total cost of its weapons. Add 1 to the cost for any lost tech that it contains, such as endosteel or double heat sinks. So honestly, I don't think that the market should probably have much lost tech in the mechs that they are selling. They're probably all going to be intro tech designs, although they might be customized intro tech designs. And again, this is an alpha. The costs of things haven't really been hammered out completely. I'm going to have to tinker with the in-game economy probably quite a bit before it's perfected, so just keep that in mind. This is a work in progress. You can also sell your mechs, but it's not going to be as worth it to sell your mech most of the time. The guys at the junkyard are going to rip you off. And it's probably a good idea to have a backup mech anyways, in case yours gets cored. Also, having a nice light mech for scouting missions and a heavy mech for like assault missions is going to be probably a good idea. Then the negotiation skill can be used anytime you make a purchase to reduce the cost overall. Again, I need to tinker with the cost of things overall. This seems okay for now. And then we've got just basically, like, if you get RNG screwed and your mech is destroyed and you get dispossessed, we have a couple of ways for you to kind of dig yourself out of that hole. You can, of course, choose to just make a new mech warrior using the point system if yours gets killed, but any XP that you have on your mech warrior is going to be lost. So we can take out loans. The bank will give you a loan of 5 G-bills with no collateral. If you have a mech to put up as collateral, they'll give you a maximum amount of the value of your mech on the market. And then loans from the bank accrue interest at a rate of 20% per deployment. You can pay it back anytime, but if the loan accrues greater than 50% interest, so let's say you took out 10 G-bills and then you accrue interest equal to 5 G-bills, the bank will seize your assets to pay off the debt with the help of the police. Like, this just automatically happens. You get raided or whatever. If you don't have enough assets to pay it off, then you'll declare bankruptcy and you're going to pay 1 G-bill every time you earn G-bills until the debt is paid off. And then you can also take out a loan from the mob instead. They have better interest rates, but if you fail to pay your 15% interest per deployment, they'll come and break your legs. So you get 2d3 minus 1 injuries as they beat the crap out of you and then take the money anyways. And then if your mech is destroyed and you don't have anything to work in, then you can rent one of the mechs from the market. I think what I'm going to add to this is you can always rent a Locust 1E, because Locusts are so incredibly common that the junkyard just always has one for you to rent. But any of the mechs that are on the market you can rent, and it's 5 G-bills to rent it, plus an additional G-bill for every 10 tons over 35 tons, and then you have to pay for any damages. Or, instead of paying up front, you can give up all of your salvage rights for the mission. Now this will only be applying for missions with salvage rights, and essentially this is Jimmy's Junkyard gambling that you're going to get more salvage than you would have paid for the mech in the first place, which is fairly likely. And then you can also buy insurance if you're paying up front to rent the mech, which is 1 G-bill plus the weight category of the mech, 2 for light, 3 for medium, 4 for heavy, 5 for assault, and the insurance covers the cost of all repairs unless the mech is destroyed. In that case, you will have to pay the cost of the insurance again. Finally, we have rules for you being captured, since if your mech is destroyed, your pilot goes out onto the field. They don't just automatically escape. Your pilot is sitting there and they are a sitting duck. The enemy can capture you, or one of your friends can come and pick you up. And if you've been a real son of a gun and are killing enemy pilots for that faction, they'll just outright murder you if they capture you, or their mechs might just walk up and blast you immediately. But most of the time, they're going to want to ransom you back because they're going to get a good chunk of money from the guild to pay for you. And then if you capture enemy pilots, you can either ransom them back to get some G-bills, or you can sell them to the guild as either, I don't know, an indentured servant, or maybe they're getting information out of them. That's up for the GM to decide, but they'll give you 1 or 2 G-bills depending on if it's an elite pilot or a regular pilot. And vehicle crews are treated as a single pilot for the purposes of this, so an assault crew is going to have way more guys in it, so if you capture them, they're worth more to sell, obviously. And then if you pick up a friendly pilot during a mission, which encourages roleplay, the guild is going to give you 1 G-bill, and you will gain an extra experience point for the mission, just for being a homie. If you don't know how to do that, just just end your turn in the same space as where the pilot is, and you'll automatically pick them up, as long as you don't have another pilot in your cockpit already. And then I've just got a couple of mission examples. So we've got supply dump destruction, attack enemy supply depots, destroy as many as possible. You get 5 G-bills for each mech warrior, and then 2 G-bills per enemy supply depot destroyed, 1 bonus G-bill per enemy vehicle or mech destroyed. Base is defended by turrets and a garrison, and the garrison is going to be like a lance of medium tanks or 2 lances of scorpions. And then reinforcements start arriving as the enemy realizes that you're attacking their base. So after 3 turns, a lance of attack helicopters arrives. After 6 turns, a lance of light mechs arrives. And because you're in enemy territory, no salvage rights on this one. You're just trying to destroy the base, trying to kill as many of their assets that can be used in offense as possible. And if your mech is badly damaged, you can escape from any edge, except for the one nearest to the base, because that's towards enemy territory. Then we've got attack and defend convoy, and these are pretty much going to be the same, just kind of flipped around. So I'm using Badgers as the transports for these because they're decently hard to kill and decently mobile. So they're a good stand-in for various different types of transport vehicles. But if you want to be a mean son of a gun on defend the convoy, you could give them like pickup trucks that they have to defend, which are going to be destroyed immediately. But these are both going to just act as like a breakthrough scenario for either the Op Force trying to break through your deployment zone, or you have to break through to the opposite end of the map to reach safety. So that's it. That's the package. If you want to check this out, follow the link to the Discord in the description. Help me playtest this and improve it, perfect it, so that we can have a really cool pared down kind of campaign module for the Battletech community. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to keep up with the project, as well as all of my other mech review videos and stuff like that. Check out the live tab on my channel. Lots of cool stuff that I have been doing over there between Battletech Advanced, Mordheim, and various other strategy and cozy games. If you're a gamer, I can guarantee you there's going to be something cool over there for you to check out. Thanks for watching, Mech Warriors, and have a great day.